Hey everyone, glad you're here tonight. We're about to dive into a collection of jokes that aren't designed to make you laugh. Actually, they're designed for the opposite. These are the kind of jokes that quietly fade into the background, perfect for when your mind needs a gentle nudge toward rest. Think of this as a little refuge from the chaos, a place where humor takes a back seat and calm takes the wheel. No loud punchlines or dramatic twists, just simple dry jokes told slowly enough to ease you into a peaceful state. Before we get started, take a moment to get comfortable. Maybe dim the lights, pull up a blanket, or turn on a low hum from a fan or white noise machine. Wherever you are, whoever you are, this space is yours to unwind. If you want, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from or what time it is. It's always fascinating to see how far and wide we all come together to share this quiet time. There's no rush here, no pressure to stay awake or react. Just let the words flow over you, gradually slowing down your thoughts and inviting your body to relax. So, settle in, breathe deeply, and prepare for a journey that isn't about excitement or energy, but softness and stillness. These jokes might not make you smile, but they'll help you drift off. And that's the point. Let's begin, slowly, gently, and quietly. Why did the man go to the bank with a ladder? Because he heard the interest rates were going up, and he wanted to get a better view. He stood there, quietly, watching the numbers slowly tick up and down on the screen behind the teller's window. No rush, no excitement, just a man and his ladder, patiently waiting to catch the highest rate possible. He checked his watch a few times, sighed softly, and adjusted his hat. The ladder was sturdy, though a bit rusty, and he hoped it wouldn't creak too loudly. Everyone else was inside, busy with paperwork and quiet conversations, but the man with the ladder stayed calm, unbothered by the slow passing of time. There was a man who tried to become a professional juggler, but he gave up after the first day because he found it too hard to keep all the balls in the air at once. He practiced for hours, slowly tossing one ball up and catching it, then adding a second, and finally a third. But every time he tried to add more, the balls dropped. After a long, quiet day of attempts and missed catches, he decided maybe juggling wasn't for him. He sat down on the curb, took a deep breath, and thought about simpler hobbies, like walking or reading. The balls lay quietly on the ground nearby, untouched for the rest of the evening. Why don't some people like elevators? Because they're always going up and down, stopping on every floor without any real direction. It's the constant motion, the slow opening and closing of the doors, the awkward silence inside as people avoid eye contact. You press a button and wait. The elevator hums quietly, then moves just a few feet and stops again. The cycle repeats over and over until finally you reach your floor. It's a slow, repetitive ride with no surprises, just a quiet, mechanical rhythm that can make you feel a little restless or maybe just sleepy. A man bought a new watch and wore it every day, but he never set the time correctly. He liked how it looked on his wrist more than how it told time. The hands moved steadily, but they were always a few minutes off. People asked him for the time, and he'd glance at the watch, pause thoughtfully, and give them an answer that was never quite right. He didn't mind. For him, the watch was a decoration, a quiet reminder that time was always moving. Whether you noticed it or not, it was slow, steady, and unchanging in its own way. Why did the librarian keep shushing everyone, even when the library was empty? Because she liked the sound of silence more than the sound of people talking. She walked slowly between the aisles, her finger lightly tracing the spines of dusty books. The silence was comforting, like a soft blanket, wrapping around the room. Even the faintest cough or page turn seemed loud in the stillness. She whispered reminders to herself about quietness, and the quiet echoed back in kind. There was no rush, no noise, just the slow, steady hum of peace. The light bulb problem. Why did the light bulb refuse to change itself? Because it was too tired of always being expected to shine when things got dark. The light bulb sat quietly in its socket, humming softly, aware of its purpose, but unwilling to rush into action. Sometimes it felt overwhelmed by the responsibility of lighting up rooms, hallways, and sometimes entire buildings. It had seen other bulbs flicker out and be replaced, but it held on stubbornly. The light bulb thought about how it just wanted to rest, to take a break from illuminating everyone else's lives. When the switch was flipped, the light bulb glowed softly, neither too bright nor too dim, just enough to keep things visible, but not startling. The light bulb wasn't in a hurry to be replaced or upgraded. It liked the slow pace of life, the quiet buzz of electricity, the gentle glow in the evening hours. So, it stayed put, doing its job without fanfare, never rushing, just shining quietly through the dull days and nights. The slow painter. Why did the painter take 3 weeks to finish one wall? Because every brushstroke was measured and carefully considered, as if it were the most important stroke in the entire world. The painter worked slowly, not because he was lazy, but because he wanted to savor the process. Each color was chosen thoughtfully, mixed with precision, and applied gently. The painter paused often, stepping back to observe, making tiny adjustments that only he could notice. Passers-by wondered why it took so long, but he didn't mind their impatience. The wall wasn't just a wall to him, it was a canvas, a place where quiet contemplation met slow movement. The sound of the brush bristles dragging softly on the surface was almost hypnotic. No rush, no deadlines, just the slow, steady progress of a man lost in his own rhythm. By the time he finished, the paint was dry, the colors were soft and muted, and the wall seemed to breathe with a calm that no quick job could have achieved. The clock that didn't care. Why did the clock on the wall never hurry? Because it knew that time would pass, regardless of how fast or slow it ticked. The clock's hands moved steadily, never skipping or racing, always maintaining a quiet, deliberate pace. People glanced at the clock, sometimes annoyed by its slow seconds, sometimes comforted by its consistency. The clock didn't care about being precise to the millisecond. It just kept moving forward, calmly marking time without any urgency. When the minute hand crept along, the hour hand followed behind like a slow-moving shadow. The clock's ticking was soft, almost like a heartbeat, steady and reassuring. It wasn't the fastest or flashiest timekeeper, but it had a quiet dignity in its persistence. It didn't try to race the day away or make time stretch. Instead, it embraced the slow crawl of hours and minutes, inviting anyone watching to slow down as well. The quiet spoon. Why did the spoon refuse to make a clatter in the drawer? Because it preferred the soft, steady company of other utensils over noisy excitement. The spoon nestled quietly among forks and knives, content to sit still and unassuming. It didn't crave attention or loud applause. It was happy just to be useful when called upon. When the drawer opened, the spoon shifted gently, making the smallest movement possible. It didn't want to jostle or clang, just a soft scrape here and there. Over time, the spoon learned the value of quiet presence, how being calm and steady mattered more than being loud or flashy. When it was time to eat, the spoon moved smoothly, carrying soup or cereal with a gentle scoop. It never rushed, never spilled, just did its job quietly and well. The spoon didn't have a flashy story to tell or a punchline to deliver. It simply existed in slow, steady harmony with the kitchen's rhythm. The paperclip's big job. Why did the paperclip always feel overwhelmed? Because it was expected to hold together many papers at once, and sometimes just one was enough to be tiring. The paperclip was small, simple, and unassuming, but it carried a quiet weight. It bent and flexed, holding sheets together with steady pressure. Sometimes it was asked to clip together thick stacks, and other times just a few loose pages. No matter the task, the paperclip took it seriously. It didn't complain or rush. It simply did what was needed, patiently. Over time, the paperclip grew a little tired and bent in odd ways, but it kept working. It liked being useful, even if no one noticed. The paperclip didn't need applause or thanks. Its satisfaction came from holding things together, quietly and reliably, without fuss. It wasn't flashy or dramatic, just a slow, steady helper in the background. The elevator's thoughtful pause. Why does the elevator always stop on so many floors? It's not rushing anywhere, really. The elevator seems to enjoy its slow, deliberate stops, quietly pausing on each floor as if savoring the moment. It waits patiently while people get on or off, without a hint of urgency. The doors open smoothly, allowing footsteps in and out. The gentle hum inside, barely noticeable. Sometimes it even waits an extra few seconds, just to make sure no one is left behind or feeling rushed. It doesn't mind the silence or the stillness. It's comfortable in its role as a gentle carrier, rising and descending with calm precision. When the buttons are pressed, the elevator processes them one by one, never skipping or hurrying. The floors pass by slowly, the numbers lighting up softly in sequence. It's a quiet journey, a mechanical dance of motion and rest, an unhurried ritual that encourages you to breathe slower, relax, and perhaps even nod off to the steady rhythm of its ride. The cactus is calm. Why doesn't the cactus get in a hurry? Because it knows that growth takes time and patience. The cactus stands still in the desert heat, soaking up the sun slowly, day after day. It doesn't rush to bloom or spread. Its progress is measured and quiet, almost imperceptible. The cactus stores water carefully, conserving energy for the dry stretches ahead. It knows that sudden movements or bursts of speed won't help it survive. Instead, it embraces the slow process of being, growing thicker skin and deeper roots as time passes. Its spikes stand firm, not sharp in anger, but steady in defense, a slow reminder that resilience is quiet and persistent. Watching the cactus, you realize that sometimes the best way forward is to simply wait, breathe, and keep going at a pace so slow it almost feels like not moving at all. The slow computer boot. Why does the old computer take so long to start up? Because it's making sure everything is just right before it begins the day. When you press the power button, the computer hums softly, waking from a deep rest. It goes through its checks slowly, one task at a time, scanning every corner of its memory and hard drive. The loading bar moves at a gentle crawl, giving you plenty of time to settle in. No rushing here. The computer seems to savor the process, letting each program initialize at its own pace. Sometimes it pauses just long enough to make you wonder if it's done, only to continue with a quiet beep or flicker. It's not fast or flashy, it's steady and reliable in its own old-fashioned way. When it finally reaches the desktop, it's ready to work, but never hurried, inviting you to take your time too. The steady rock. Why doesn't the rock ever worry about where it's going? because it knows that some things are meant to stay still. The rock lies quietly on the ground, unmoved by the passing breeze or the footsteps above it. It doesn't have ambitions or plans. It's content with being exactly where it is. The rock watches as leaves fall and seasons change, remaining steady through rain, sun, and snow. It doesn't need to hurry. Its presence is enough. Sometimes people step on the rock or kick it aside, but it doesn't mind. It simply rests, steady and calm, a slow, quiet part of the landscape. The rock's patience is unspoken, but palpable, a reminder that stillness can be as powerful as movement. The slow tea kettle. Why does the tea kettle take so long to whistle? Because it wants to make sure every drop of water has had its moment to warm. The kettle sits on the stove quietly, heating water at a measured pace. It doesn't rush or bubble frantically. Instead, it gradually warms, soft steam escaping now and then like a gentle sigh. You can almost hear it thinking, "Let me get this just right." When the temperature reaches the perfect point, the kettle finally lets out its long, soft whistle. It's not loud or shrill, just a calm, steady call to say the wait is over. The kettle reminds you to slow down, to appreciate the time it takes to prepare something simple but comforting. The whole process is a slow, soothing ritual, perfect for quiet moments before sleep. The paper airplane's flight plan. Why did the paper airplane refuse to fly fast? Because it preferred to glide slowly through the air, savoring each moment of its brief journey. It wasn't in a hurry to reach the floor or the desk. It wanted to enjoy the feeling of the wind beneath its wings, even if it was only a gentle breeze from a fan. The folds of its paper wings were steady and balanced, designed for a smooth, slow flight rather than a quick dash. As it floated, it barely wobbled or dipped, maintaining a steady, calm course. People might have expected the paper airplane to zoom and dart, but it took its time, drifting gracefully, almost hesitating before it finally settled down. There was no rush, no sudden movements, just a slow, peaceful glide that made the flight feel long and deliberate. The paper airplane knew its journey was short, but it chose to stretch out the experience, turning a simple throw into a quiet, lingering moment. The clock's lost minute. Why did the clock lose 1 minute every day? Because it wasn't too concerned about being perfect. The clock's hands moved steadily, but with a slight delay, as if the minute hand liked to take a small break before moving on. Every day it fell behind by just a minute, accumulating slowly over time. People noticed it, but rarely minded. The clock still kept them close enough to reality. It was more interested in the gentle passing of time than in strict accuracy. The ticking sound was soft and consistent, a slow reminder that time doesn't always have to be exact. Sometimes the clock paused just long enough to make you think about what you were doing in that moment, to reflect rather than rush ahead. Its slight imperfection became its charm, a small pause in a world that usually moves too fast. The clock taught patience, quietly encouraging those who listened to slow down and enjoy the seconds slipping by. The slow-moving escalator. Why does the escalator always move at the same slow pace? Because it knows that people aren't in a hurry when they're riding it. The escalator carries passengers gently from one floor to another, never speeding up or slowing down unexpectedly. Its steps move forward in a calm, consistent rhythm, like a slow-moving river of metal. People step on and off without fuss, enjoying the brief moment to stand still while moving. The escalator doesn't rush its passengers. It gives them time to think, to check their phones, or just to breathe. It's not a race. It's a smooth transition, a slow dance between floors. The hum of the motor is steady and quiet, blending into the background. The escalator reminds us that sometimes the journey is just as important as the destination, especially when it's slow and easy. The candle's gentle burn. Why does the candle burn so slowly? Because it knows that a quick flame can't last long. The candle's wick smolders steadily, releasing a soft, warm glow that fills the room with quiet light. It doesn't flare up or sputter. It simply burns at a calm, measured pace, giving off just enough heat to be comforting without overwhelming. The wax melts slowly, dripping gently down the side, creating soft patterns that seem to move with the flickering flame. The candle's light invites relaxation and calm, encouraging you to slow your breathing and quiet your mind. There's no hurry in the flame's dance, just a peaceful, continuous burn that fades gradually as the candle reaches the end of its life. The candle's patience is a lesson in taking time, in shining steadily without rush or drama. The slow drip of a faucet. Why does the faucet drip so slowly? Because it's in no rush to fill the sink. Each drop falls one at a time, separated by quiet moments of silence. The water doesn't gush or pour. It leaks slowly, rhythmically, like a soft metronome. You can almost count the seconds between drops, a steady, gentle pulse that fills the quiet room. The faucet drip doesn't announce itself loudly. It just persists, calmly and predictably. It's a slow reminder that even the smallest movements add up over time. Sometimes the dripping stops and then starts again, as if the faucet is pausing to catch its breath. The slow drip creates a peaceful background sound, a steady companion in the night that helps you relax and drift off. It's not exciting or fast, but it's consistent and soothing. The slow Wi-Fi signal. Why does the Wi-Fi signal always seem to slow down at the worst times? Because it prefers to take its time, like a tortoise rather than a hare. You press a button, expecting pages to load instantly, but the Wi-Fi signal drifts lazily through the air, carrying packets of data at a snail's pace. It doesn't rush to deliver your emails or videos. Instead, it moves with a calm reluctance. Sometimes the little loading wheel spins endlessly, as if the Wi-Fi is pondering the meaning of connectivity itself. The router blinks softly in the corner, steady but unhurried, sending and receiving signals like a slow dance partner. You wait patiently, watching the progress bar inch forward bit by bit, appreciating the time it takes to fully connect. There's no excitement, no drama, just a slow, steady flow of data making its way through invisible waves. The slow Wi-Fi reminds you to slow down, disconnect from urgency, and embrace the calm moments when things don't happen immediately. The forgotten sock. Why does the single sock always feel out of place? Because it's waiting for its partner, who never seems to come back from the laundry. The sock lies quietly at the bottom of the drawer, a bit stretched and faded from many washes. It doesn't complain or make noise, it just waits patiently. Sometimes it wonders what happened to the other sock. Did it escape under the bed, get lost behind the washing machine, or simply vanish into thin air? The sock doesn't rush the answer. It knows its job is to stay soft and ready, to be paired again someday. Until then, it folds itself gently, taking up as little space as possible. The sock's quiet loneliness is softened by its acceptance of the slow, uncertain rhythm of missing things. It's a humble, slow-moving character in the grand laundry saga. The slow-moving shadow. Why does the shadow never hurry? Because it's tied to the sun's slow, steady journey across the sky. The shadow stretches and shrinks with the day's light, moving so gradually it's almost imperceptible. It doesn't dart or jump, but glides smoothly, following every step with quiet patience. When the sun rises, the shadow is long and lazy, barely moving. At noon, it shrinks to a small shape, barely noticeable on the ground. Then, as the afternoon fades, the shadow grows longer again, stretching across the pavement like a slow river of darkness. It never complains about its slow pace or the passing time. Instead, it simply exists, a gentle companion to everything it touches, reminding us to slow down and observe the subtle changes that happen when we're not rushing. The slow-paced traffic light. Why does the traffic light change colors so slowly sometimes? Because it wants to give drivers plenty of time to decide what to do. When the light turns yellow, it lingers just a bit longer than expected, as if waiting to see if someone will stop or speed through. The red light feels like it lasts forever, gently enforcing patience and stillness. The green light comes on softly, inviting movement, but never demanding it quickly. The cycle repeats in a calm, unhurried rhythm, a slow pulse that guides the flow of cars without urgency. People glance at their watches or phones, tapping the steering wheel, but the light doesn't rush. It knows that slow, deliberate changes help keep everything safe and steady. The traffic light's slow dance is a quiet reminder that sometimes waiting is part of the journey. The ever-patient pencil. Why does the pencil take so long to sharpen? Because it likes to be precise and careful with every turn of the sharpener. The pencil waits patiently as the sharpener whirs gently, shaving away tiny layers of wood and graphite. It doesn't want to be too sharp or too dull, just right. The pencil isn't interested in being rushed or shortened too quickly. It enjoys the slow reveal of its fine point, the gradual trimming down to a usable tip. When the sharpening finally ends, the pencil feels balanced and ready to write. It's not a flashy tool, but it values its slow transformation, understanding that good things come to those who wait. The pencil reminds us that preparation and patience matter, even in small, quiet moments. The slowest elevator button press. Why does pressing the elevator button feel like it takes forever? Because the button itself isn't in a hurry to be pushed. When your finger gently presses the button, it sinks in slowly, almost reluctant to respond immediately. The plastic surface cools under your touch, as if considering the weight of the request. Once pressed, the button lights up softly but waits patiently before signaling the elevator to arrive. The delay feels like a thoughtful pause, as if the button wants to savor the anticipation of being needed. In the meantime, the button sits quietly, glowing in the dim hallway light, while the elevator slowly makes its way. It's not that the button is broken or lazy, it simply embraces the idea that some things are worth waiting for. So next time you press it, imagine the button taking a deep breath, preparing to serve you, but in no rush at all. The slow-moving snail on a busy sidewalk. Why does the snail never feel pressured to hurry? Because it knows that slow and steady isn't just a saying, it's a lifestyle. On a bustling sidewalk full of people rushing past, the snail takes its time, inching forward with deliberate care. It's not interested in beating anyone or racing to the next leaf. Each movement is calculated, slow, and quiet. The snail doesn't mind being overlooked or passed by. It's content to glide at its own pace. It doesn't rush its antenna or legs. Instead, it enjoys the sensation of the cool pavement beneath its body. The snail's slow crawl is a reminder that sometimes taking a moment to move gently through the world is exactly what's needed. No need to rush when the destination isn't a priority, just the journey itself. The patient wait of a book on the shelf. Why does the book never complain about waiting to be read? Because it knows that stories don't expire with time. Sitting quietly on a dusty shelf, the book waits patiently for someone to pick it up and open its pages. It doesn't rush readers or demand attention. Instead, it rests with calm anticipation. The cover may collect a little dust, and the spine may soften over the years, but the book stays ready for whenever someone needs its quiet company. It holds its stories carefully, waiting to unfold slowly in the reader's hands. The book understands that reading is not a race, it's a gentle, personal experience. So it waits, content and still, ready to offer its words at just the right moment. The unchanging color of a wall. Why does the wall never worry about changing colors? Because it knows it will stay the same, no matter what. The paint on the wall is solid and steady, not interested in flashy new looks or trends. It quietly holds its color through years of sun, shadow, and occasional dust. The wall doesn't rush to brighten or darken. It simply remains constant, a reliable backdrop for everything else in the room. Sometimes people look at it and don't even notice, but the wall doesn't mind being overlooked. It takes pride in its slow, steady presence, quietly supporting the space without fuss. The wall's calm confidence reminds us that consistency is a kind of beauty too. The slow melting ice cube. Why does the ice cube take its time, melting in the glass? Because it's not in a hurry to say goodbye to the cold. Sitting quietly in a glass of water, the ice cube slowly releases its chill, one tiny drop at a time. It doesn't rush the process or try to vanish quickly. Instead, it melts gently, cooling the water as it fades away bit by bit. The ice cube's slow transformation is peaceful, like a fading breath. It's a small, quiet moment of change, reminding us that some good things take their time to come and go. Even as it melts, the ice cube remains calm, embracing the slow dance between solid and liquid, cool and warm. The reluctant light switch. Why does the light switch take so long to flip? Because it's shy about making decisions quickly. When you reach for the switch, it doesn't instantly snap into place. Instead, it hesitates, as if weighing the consequences of turning the room bright or dark. The toggle moves slowly under your finger, reluctant to commit to on or off. Sometimes it wiggles a bit, like it's unsure whether you want to brighten the room or leave it in quiet shadow. When it finally flips, the light bulb glows softly, as if thanking the switch for its careful deliberation. The light switch isn't about rushing or sudden changes. It's a slow, thoughtful guardian of ambience. It reminds us that even small decisions deserve a moment of pause before they're made. The long-lost bookmark. Why does the bookmark always feel forgotten? Because it spends most of its time tucked inside pages nobody's looking at. The bookmark waits patiently between the chapters, quietly holding its place. It doesn't mind the slow progress of the reader, nor does it complain about being hidden away in the middle of a story. It knows that it will be found again, eventually, when the reader returns. The bookmark has no hurry or expectations, just a quiet, steady duty to keep the page safe. Sometimes it catches a faint scent of the paper, feels the gentle turning of pages, but mostly it remains still and calm. The bookmark is a humble companion, a slow, steady presence in the ongoing journey of a book. The slow spinning fan. Why does the fan always spin so slowly? Because it prefers a gentle breeze over a gusty windstorm. The blades turn quietly, cutting through the air with a soft hum. It doesn't race or whirl. Instead, It creates a calm, soothing airflow that barely stirs the room. The fan's steady rotation helps cool the air gradually, never overwhelming or rushing. People often appreciate the slow spin because it's subtle and consistent, perfect for lazy afternoons or sleepy evenings. The fan's unhurried movement becomes a comforting background sound, a reminder that not everything has to be fast or loud to be effective. The patient clock tower. Why does the clock tower chime so slowly? Because it believes time should be marked deliberately. When the hour arrives, the clock tower's bells ring out one by one, slowly and carefully, echoing through the town. It doesn't rush through the chimes. It lets each note hang in the air before moving to the next. People listening can hear the steady pace, feeling time pass, not as a blur, but as a measured, tangible presence. The clock tower isn't just announcing the time, it's encouraging patience and mindfulness. Its slow chimes become a gentle reminder to live in the moment, not hurry past it. The unhurried garden gnome. Why does the garden gnome never rush? Because it knows that standing still is its whole purpose. The gnome sits quietly among flowers and bushes, watching the slow changes of the seasons. It doesn't move or speak, but it holds its place patiently, a steadfast figure in the garden's slow rhythm. Birds might perch on its hat, leaves might fall around it, but the gnome remains steady and calm. It doesn't mind being ignored or overlooked. Instead, it takes pride in its slow, unchanging watchfulness. The garden gnome teaches us that sometimes stillness and patience are exactly what's needed to bring peace. The hesitant door. Hinge. Why does the door hinge creak so slowly? Because it enjoys making its presence known in the quietest way possible. Every time the door swings open or closed, the hinge doesn't just silently do its job. Instead, it takes a long moment to stretch and groan like it's waking up from a nap. The metal moves sluggishly, releasing a drawn-out creak that fills the otherwise still room. It's not in a hurry to be quiet or smooth. It prefers to announce the door's movement with slow, deliberate squeaks. Sometimes, people think the hinge is complaining about the door's weight or the slow pull, but really, it's just savoring the sound it makes. The door hinge reminds us that even the smallest parts of life have their own slow rhythms and unique ways of expressing themselves. It's a reminder that patience is audible if you listen closely enough. The sleepy office chair. Why does the office chair slowly swivel back and forth? Because it's not trying to impress anyone with speed or agility. Instead, the chair takes its time, rocking gently with each shift of weight. It doesn't spin wildly or tilt abruptly. It offers a slow, comforting sway that mirrors a relaxed mind. The chair knows that most people need these quiet moments of motion to ease their muscles and calm their thoughts during long workdays. Its movements are deliberate and steady, never rushed. Even when no one is sitting on it, the chair occasionally creaks softly, as if remembering the slow dance of its past occupants. The sleepy office chair teaches us that slow comfort can be just as important as fast productivity. The patient bookworm. Why does the bookworm chew pages so slowly? Because it savors every word in a very literal way. As it munches on the edges of pages, the bookworm takes its time, nibbling carefully, without rushing to finish. It doesn't tear through stories. It nibbles gently, appreciating the texture of paper and the quiet atmosphere of the library. The bookworm's slow chewing isn't about hunger, but about enjoying the moment, turning reading and eating into a mindful, unhurried ritual. Sometimes it pauses to rest, letting the pages sit quietly before taking another bite. The bookworm's slow approach is a reminder that even when we consume knowledge, taking it slow can make the experience richer. The unhurried traffic cone. Why does the traffic cone stand still so patiently? Because it knows its job is to wait, not to move fast. Sitting quietly by the roadside, the cone marks boundaries and warns of hazards, all without any urgency. It doesn't rush to a new position or leap into action. It simply waits calmly for the work to be done around it. Sometimes it basks in the sun. Other times it stands in the rain, never complaining about its slow, steady roll. The traffic cone doesn't demand attention, but patiently accepts it when drivers and workers notice it. Its slow, steady presence reminds us that sometimes the most important thing is to stay put and do your part quietly. The slow-breathing plant. Why does the plant seem to breathe so slowly? Because its process of photosynthesis isn't a race. Every day, the plant takes in sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, slowly transforming them into energy. It doesn't rush this delicate work, but performs it at a gentle, unhurried pace. The leaves open and close with the passing hours, moving subtly as if breathing in and out. The plant's slow, steady rhythm contrasts with the busy world around it. It reminds us that growth and life often happen in quiet, patient ways that we might overlook. The slow-breathing plant teaches the beauty of calm persistence. The reluctant ice cream melting. Why does ice cream melt so slowly on a warm day? Because it's savoring its final moments before becoming just a puddle. When you take ice cream out of the freezer, it doesn't rush to melt. Instead, it resists, holding onto its shape with quiet dignity. The sun shines down, and the ice cream gradually softens, inch by inch, drip by drip. It doesn't collapse instantly. Instead, it offers a slow transformation from solid to liquid, reminding you to take your time enjoying it. Each slowly melting scoop is like a little farewell performance. It's not about disappearing quickly, but about lingering, letting the sweetness last a while longer. Watching the ice cream melt teaches patience, like a quiet reminder that good things don't have to end fast. The ever-slowing escalator. Why does the escalator sometimes move so slowly? Because it's practicing the art of subtle motion. The escalator doesn't sprint like a conveyor belt. It glides leisurely, carrying people upward or downward in a calm, measured way. Its steps rise and fall at a pace so gentle you can almost walk alongside without needing to hurry. It doesn't rush anyone, allowing space for casual conversations, thoughtful pauses, or simply the experience of moving without stress. The escalator's slow rhythm fits the mood of a busy mall or quiet airport, blending motion with stillness. It reminds us that progress doesn't need to be fast. Steady movement can be just as effective. The patient mailbox. Why does the mailbox wait so patiently for letters? Because it knows communication takes time. Sitting quietly at the end of the driveway, the mailbox doesn't demand immediate mail delivery. It waits calmly for the postal carrier to arrive, no matter the hour or weather. Even when empty, it holds space for messages, bills, and occasional postcards without complaint. The mailbox's slow acceptance of time passing is a reminder that staying ready, open, and patient is part of communication. It doesn't rush or pressure anyone. It simply exists as a steady, silent participant in the slow exchange of words and news. The slowly sinking sandcastle. Why does the sandcastle take its time washing away? Because it enjoys a slow farewell to the tide. Built carefully on the shore, the sandcastle withstands waves for a while, holding its towers and walls with stubborn pride. When the tide comes in, The sandcastle doesn't immediately collapse. It gradually softens, crumbles, and sinks back into the sand. Each wave gently erases a bit more, like a slow, graceful exit. The sandcastle's slow disappearance teaches us that endings can be peaceful and unhurried, a gradual transition back to the earth rather than a sudden loss. The slow blinking traffic signal. Why does the blinking traffic signal blink so slowly at night? Because it's taking a break from the rush of the day. When the city sleeps, the traffic lights switch to blinking mode, flashing yellow or red slowly, like a quiet heartbeat. This slow blink signals caution, but also a slower pace of life. Drivers approach with care, knowing the steady blink means it's time to relax a bit and pay attention without hurry. The blinking light's unhurried rhythm matches the calm of nighttime streets, a gentle reminder that some moments call for slowing down and being present. The slow-evolving coffee stain. Why does the coffee stain on your desk take so long to spread? Because it's not in a hurry to ruin your paperwork. When a drop of coffee lands on the surface, it begins its slow, creeping journey outward, like an artist painting an abstract watercolor. The stain doesn't leap instantly to every corner. It inches along the grain of the wood, exploring crevices and spreading carefully. You can almost watch it expand, but only at a snail's pace. The stain seems to deliberate before engulfing each new inch of paper or tabletop. Sometimes it pauses, held back by a drop of condensation or a tiny scratch on the desk, as if reflecting on its progress. The coffee stain reminds us that even accidents have a slow rhythm, creeping in without urgency, inviting us to notice the little changes happening around us. The reluctant printer. Why does the printer take forever to start printing? Because it wants to build suspense. When you press print, the printer doesn't jump into action. It first wakes up from its nap with a series of whirs and clicks, slowly aligning its cartridges and warming its rollers. It might pause to chew on a paper jam or make some indecisive noises, as if asking, "Are you sure you want me to print this now?" The printer then begins its slow, methodical journey, pulling paper inch by inch, creating faint lines that gradually become words and images. It's not interested in rushing the process. It savors each page like it's a masterpiece. The reluctant printer teaches us that some tasks require patience, and that technology, like people, can have its slow moments. The unchanging parking meter. Why does the parking meter tick so slowly? Because it's counting down your time in tiny, measured steps. The parking meter doesn't rush through your paid minutes. It ticks steadily, 1 second at a time, marking the slow passage of time with gentle clicks. Each tick is a reminder that your parking spot is temporary, but it never hurries you away. The meter patiently waits for the next coin, the next swipe, or the next person's arrival, marking time in a quiet, predictable rhythm. It's the unsung keeper of parking patience, quietly insisting on order without haste. The parking meter reminds us that even small moments of waiting have their own slow pace, worth noticing. The slow-folding newspaper. Why does the newspaper fold so slowly after reading? Because it's reluctant to say goodbye to its readers. When you finish a section, the paper doesn't snap shut. Instead, it folds gently, slowly, with deliberate creases, as if savoring the moment spent in your hands. The newspaper folds in layers, one page overlapping another, with quiet care. Sometimes it takes a moment longer to fold the edges neatly, especially when the paper has been handled multiple times. The slow folding becomes a ritual, a gentle closing of the day's news, reminding us that even endings deserve a thoughtful, unhurried finish. The slow-paced microwave timer. Why does the microwave timer count down so slowly? Because it's savoring every second of the wait. When you set the microwave, the timer begins its countdown with deliberate beeps and pauses. The seconds tick down one by one, never speeding up or rushing to zero. Each beep is a small, steady reminder of progress, marking the slow march toward food readiness. Sometimes the timer seems to stretch out those final seconds, teasing the anticipation of a warm meal. The slow-pacing timer teaches us that waiting can be part of the experience, a quiet moment to pause and prepare for what's coming. The reluctant umbrella. Why does the umbrella take forever to open? Because it prefers a slow, deliberate stretch before facing the rain. When you finally decide to open it, the umbrella doesn't pop out immediately with a snap. Instead, it unfolds with a gentle creak, each rib stretching carefully outward, as if waking up from a long nap. It takes its time expanding the canopy, waiting for the last moment to protect you. Even when the rain starts pouring, the umbrella holds its shape slowly and steadily, refusing to rush or make a fuss. The fabric stretches taut like a soft sigh, and the handle feels heavy in your hand, reminding you of the umbrella's quiet, steady duty. It's not interested in hurrying or sudden movements. It's all about calm, slow shelter in the storm. The reluctant umbrella teaches patience and the beauty of deliberate protection. The ever-stretching yawn. Why does a yawn take so long to finish? Because it enjoys the slow build-up of relaxation. When a yawn begins, it doesn't just pop out suddenly. First comes a deep, slow inhale, filling the lungs gently, followed by a drawn-out opening of the mouth that stretches the jaw like a lazy cat. The yawn lingers, holding the breath for a moment before exhaling slowly. Sometimes it spreads contagiously, passing from person to person like a slow wave of calm. The yawn's deliberate pace signals the body to relax and prepare for rest. It's a slow, involuntary ritual, reminding us to slow down and breathe. The ever-stretching yawn is a quiet invitation to take life a little less fast. The patient sand timer. Why does the sand timer trickle so slowly? Because it believes time is best measured grain by grain. When you flip the hourglass, the sand doesn't rush to the bottom. Instead, each tiny grain falls deliberately, one by one, marking the passage of seconds with a quiet, steady flow. The sand timer doesn't hurry. It respects the slow, unstoppable movement of time. Watching the sand slip through the narrow neck becomes almost hypnotic, inviting patience and mindfulness. It reminds us that progress often happens in small, invisible steps rather than giant leaps. The patient sand timer teaches us to appreciate slow but steady change. The ever-patient snail. Why does the snail move so slowly across the garden path? Because it's savoring every step. The snail doesn't rush to reach the other side. Instead, it glides slowly, leaving a delicate trail behind. Its pace is unhurried, steady, almost meditative. The snail seems to take in every blade of grass, every pebble, every shadow along its way. It carries its home on its back with quiet determination, moving deliberately despite the world's hurry. The snail's slow journey teaches us the value of persistence and enjoying the moment rather than rushing to the destination. The slow unfolding map. Why does the paper map take so long to unfold? Because it wants you to explore every fold. When you open a map, the creases resist at first, needing careful, slow peeling. Each fold must be gently undone to reveal the full picture beneath. The map doesn't spring open instantly. It demands attention and care, inviting you to slow down and appreciate every detail. The slow unfolding becomes a quiet ritual, a moment of preparation before adventure. It reminds us that discovering new paths often requires patience and deliberate effort. The slow unfolding map encourages calm exploration and thoughtful journeys. The slow charging phone, why does the phone take forever to charge sometimes? Because it's enjoying a leisurely nap. When you plug it in, the phone doesn't rush to fill its battery bars all at once. Instead, it begins charging at a slow, steady pace, as if savoring every percent gained. The screen may glow faintly, showing a little lightning bolt, but the numbers climb slowly, almost lazily. Sometimes the phone even pauses mid-charge, as if deciding to take a tiny break before continuing. It's not in a hurry to be fully powered up. It prefers a slow and steady build-up. The slow-charging phone reminds us that good things often take their time, and patience with small progress is worthwhile. The unhurried candle flame. Why does the candle flame flicker so slowly? Because it's dancing to a quiet, calm rhythm. When you light a candle, the flame doesn't leap wildly. It begins with a gentle flicker, almost hesitant, swaying slowly with every tiny breath of air. The flame moves with grace, never rushed or frantic. Sometimes it dips low, then rises again like a slow wave. It burns steadily, casting a soft, warm glow that invites calmness and reflection. The flickering flame is nature's slow dance, reminding us to breathe gently and embrace the quiet moments in life. The lazy elevator button. Why does the elevator button seem to take forever to respond? Because it's not keen on instant action. When you press the button, it might take a moment before lighting up or making its soft beep. It's as if the button is weighing your request, considering whether to answer right away or wait a bit longer. The button doesn't want to be rushed. It prefers a slow, thoughtful response. Once acknowledged, it will patiently wait while the elevator makes its slow ascent or descent. The lazy elevator button teaches us to appreciate small pauses and the rhythm of waiting, even when it feels a bit frustrating. The sleepy clock hands. Why do the clock hands sometimes seem to move slowly? Because they're savoring each second. The minute and hour hands don't jump from number to number, but sweep slowly around the face, marking time with calm precision. Even when the seconds hand ticks away steadily, the larger hands remind us that time is a continuous flow, not a sudden change. They move with a quiet grace that can almost hypnotize, encouraging us to slow down and notice the passing moments. The sleepy clock hands invite patience and mindfulness in a world that often feels too fast. The slow-pouring ketchup bottle. Why does the ketchup bottle take forever to pour? Because it's savoring every drop. When you tip the bottle, the ketchup doesn't rush out in a flood. Instead, it creeps slowly to the opening, thick and reluctant, moving at a glacial pace. It sometimes pauses, hesitating, as if deciding exactly how much to spill. The ketchup spreads slowly on your plate, forming puddles that invite careful dipping. The slow-pouring ketchup bottle teaches us that even in the smallest moments of frustration, there's a rhythm to be enjoyed, a lesson in patience, disguised as condiment. The ever-dragging backpack. Zipper. Why does the backpack zipper move so slowly? Because it's taking its time to carefully thread through the teeth. When you pull the zipper, it doesn't zip up or down in a flash. Instead, it slides sluggishly, catching slightly on the fabric as if savoring the effort. The metal teeth lock one by one, slowly closing or opening the backpack. Sometimes the zipper pauses midway, hanging on stubbornly to a thread or a tiny snag. It doesn't rush. It's methodical and steady, reminding us of the small challenges in everyday tasks. The dragging zipper is like a quiet companion, insisting on patience in the face of simple obstacles. The long-winded elevator ride. Why does the elevator take so long to reach your floor? Because it's making every stop possible just to be thorough. Once you step inside, the elevator hums and slowly begins its ascent or descent. It doesn't skip floors or rush. Instead, it methodically stops at every button pressed. Doors open and close with deliberate slowness, and the elevator gently rocks as it moves, like a slow train on a short journey. Passengers get on and off, while the elevator quietly ticks through the floors, taking its sweet time. It teaches us that sometimes even short trips are about savoring the journey, no matter how slow. The sluggish toothpaste squeeze. Why does the toothpaste come out so slowly? Because it's shy about leaving the tube. When you squeeze the tube, the toothpaste doesn't immediately burst out in a perfect stream. Instead, it creeps forward slowly, inch by inch, refusing to be hurried. It sometimes clings stubbornly to the inside of the tube, needing repeated nudges to appear. Once it finally emerges, it oozes thick and deliberate, not wanting to make a mess or be rushed. The sluggish toothpaste is a reminder that even small tasks require patience and gentle coaxing to get going. The pondering streetlight. Why does the streetlight take so long to turn on? Because it's waiting for the perfect moment. As dusk falls, the streetlight doesn't instantly flash on. Instead, it hesitates, lingering in dimness, watching the sky carefully. It flickers softly, deciding if the darkness is deep enough to justify lighting the street. Once the moment arrives, it brightens slowly, bathing the sidewalk in a calm glow. The streetlight's measured patience reminds us that transitions don't have to be sudden. They can be gentle, thoughtful, and unhurried. The indecisive TV remote. Why does the TV remote seem slow to respond? Because it's taking a moment to consider your command. When you press a button, the remote doesn't always act instantly. It might pause, as if double-checking which channel or volume you want. Sometimes it requires repeated presses, each one met with a slow beep or delayed reaction. The remote isn't lazy, it's cautious, savoring its role in controlling your entertainment. The indecisive remote reminds us that technology isn't always fast, and that a little delay can be a moment to breathe. The hesitant soap dispenser. Why does the soap dispenser always hesitate? Because it's deeply reflective before taking action. You press the top once, nothing. Twice, just a whisper of movement. The dispenser seems to be having a philosophical moment, pondering whether this is truly the right time to release soap. Eventually, with a tired sigh and a slow squeak, a small blob of soap emerges, barely covering a quarter of your palm. And it's always the same. Too little. So you press again and again. Each press yields a fraction more, like the dispenser is rationing out cleanliness. It doesn't like drama. It prefers subtle, delayed generosity. The hesitant soap dispenser isn't broken. It's just patient, meditative, and slightly passive-aggressive. The slow sinking ice cube. Why does the ice cube sink so slowly in water? Because it's considering its options. It doesn't plop down with a splash. It floats, wobbles, slowly twirls, like it's enjoying the view. Then, one corner begins its descent. Barely noticeable, it's a gentle slide into the depths, and even then, it might pause halfway, like it forgot something. The ice cube is not in a rush to chill your drink. It's on a personal journey. As it slowly melts, it whispers a quiet message. Coolness takes time. And you sit, watching it drift lazily, wondering if you've just become emotionally attached to frozen water. The indifferent curtain. Why do curtains take forever to close? Because they're dramatic by nature. You grab the edge and start pulling. But the curtain resists, snagging slightly on the rail, moving an inch at a time. It's not broken, it's just performing. Each inch closed is a tiny act in a slow, deliberate finale. The curtain believes in build-up, in suspense. By the time it's fully shut, you feel like you've just ended a Broadway play. Sometimes it even leaves a little gap in the middle, as if to say, just in case you wanted one last look. The indifferent curtain teaches us that even windows deserve a slow goodbye. The reluctant light switch. Why does the light switch feel like it takes forever to do its job? Because it needs emotional closure. You flick the switch, expecting instant illumination. But sometimes there's a pause, a flicker, a faint click, then light. It's like the switch had to double-check if it was truly ready to shine. Sometimes it works on the second try, like it wasn't quite emotionally prepared the first time. And if you're turning it off, oh, it'll hesitate again, just for balance. The reluctant light switch isn't faulty. It just values the weight of the moment. After all, turning night into day, or vice versa, is no small thing. The procrastinating bookmark. Why does your bookmark always move so slowly through the book? Because it believes in savoring every sentence. Page after page, day after day, the bookmark creeps along. You'd think after 3 weeks it would be halfway through. But no. It's still near the beginning, like it's trying to savor the introduction. It refuses to rush. Sometimes it even moves backward a page, as if to say, let's revisit that part one more time. The bookmark doesn't care about your reading goal. It doesn't answer to pressure. It's the Zen master of paper, insisting that stories are not for speed. They're for immersion, one boring paragraph at a time. The lazy pencil sharpener. Why does the pencil sharpener act like it's training for a marathon? Because it takes its sweet time with every pencil, like it's sculpting a masterpiece. You insert your pencil, expecting a quick spin and a crisp point. But this sharpener, it groans softly, then slowly, agonizingly, begins turning the blade with the enthusiasm of a snail on a Sunday. You rotate the pencil, it resists. You turn again, it catches. Is it sharpening, or just gently scuffing the wood? Eventually, after what feels like several geologic eras, you pull the pencil out, only to find it half-sharpened. So back it goes. The lazy sharpener doesn't rush genius. It believes in slow, deliberate art. It's not here to save time. It's here to stretch it. The stretching sock that never ends. Why does putting on a sock feel like an event? Because some socks stretch like they're auditioning to be yoga instructors. You put your toe in, and it stretches. You pull a little more. It keeps going. You feel like you're putting on a sock and simultaneously unraveling a scarf. It clings gently to your heel, then slowly climbs your ankle like it's scaling Mount Comfort. And just when you think you've made it, the toe seam twists sideways. Now you have to start over. The stretching sock doesn't want to rush. It wants a slow, meditative dressing experience, one thread at a time. The frozen pizza. That time forgot. Why does frozen pizza take forever to cook? Because it's frozen in both form and spirit. You preheat the oven, slide the pizza in with dreams of crispy cheese and golden crust. You wait and wait. You check. Still pale. You rotate it. You check again. Still soft in the middle. The pizza is in no hurry. It seems to meditate in the oven, slowly absorbing warmth, reflecting deeply on its destiny. Even after it's technically done, it asks for a few more minutes, just to be sure. The frozen pizza isn't late. It's fashionably baked. The stubborn shoelace knot. Why does the shoelace knot unravel at the worst time, but takes an eternity to tie when you're in a hurry? Because it exists to test your soul. When you're late, your fingers become noodles, the loops become chaotic, and the lace refuses to obey basic physics. You try once, twice, a third time. It mocks you with loose loops and uneven ends. Finally, when you manage a knot, it's too tight on one side, too floppy on the other. But when you don't care, when you're relaxing at home, the knot forms itself instantly, a perfect bow. The shoelace is not about functionality, it's about emotional timing and spiritual mischief. The indecisive microwave beep. Why does the microwave beep so slowly and repetitively? Because it needs confirmation you truly heard it. You set it for 2 minutes. It hums softly, rotates with noble purpose, and finally beeps. But not once. Number it beeps, pauses, then beeps again, then again. It's not a mistake, it's a conversation. Your food is ready. Beep. Seriously, come get it. Beep. It's getting cold now. Beep. You open the door. Silence. Microwave satisfied. Close the door. It forgets and beeps again, later, just to make sure. The microwave believes in thoughtful reminders, spaced apart for dramatic effect. The emotionally complex fridge light. Why does the fridge light always seem a little too eager? Until it's not? Because it's emotionally complicated. Every time you open the fridge, there it is, bright, alert, glowing with purpose. It doesn't flicker or hesitate. No, it leaps into action. But then, when you close the door, what does it do? Does it go off instantly? Or does it linger for a moment, pondering its role in the universe? The truth is, the fridge light might stay on for half a second longer than needed, just to be sure you're really done. Or maybe it dims slowly, like it's waving goodbye. Some believe it turns off immediately. Others say it waits in the dark, hoping to be noticed again. It's not just a light, it's an introvert with boundary issues. The reluctant coffee drip. Why does the coffee machine always save the last drop for an encore? Because it's dramatic by nature. You hear the familiar gurgle, that comforting chorus of brewing, and you think, this is it, coffee is ready. But then just as it seems finished, drip. Wait, another. Drip. And then, silence. Is it done? You step closer. One more defiant drip escapes. Then a pause, long enough to question your existence. Then, a final, heroic, unnecessarily delayed drip, like a teardrop from the soul of the bean. This isn't just caffeine, it's theater. The coffee machine wants you to appreciate each drop as its own meaningful contribution to the greater brew. The sleepy blinking cursor. Why does the blinking cursor on a blank document feel like it's judging you? Because it's too patient. You open your laptop, ready to write greatness, and there it is, blinking, blink, blink. Each blink is calm, slow, consistent, like it's saying, any time now. You stare back, thinking. Nothing happens. It blinks again. Blink, blink. You type a word, then delete it. It blinks, unfazed. It's not rushing. It's just there. Always there. Encouraging and condescending at the same time. The blinking cursor is your quiet accountability partner, offering neither inspiration nor complaint, just endless, blinking patience. The indifferent escalator. Handrail. Why is the escalator handrail never in sync with the steps? Because it's on its own journey. You step on the escalator, grab the rail, and suddenly, your hand starts sliding ahead. The steps and the rail were supposed to be partners. But no, the handrail is 5 seconds into the future, and your arm is stretching like you're reaching for an invisible snack. Then it slows down just as the stairs speed up. Then, the opposite. The handrail isn't broken, it just doesn't believe in conformity. It's rebellious, contemplative, and just slightly faster than your expectations. It teaches balance, flexibility, and mild annoyance.